Quipster Puck here. I do know that I have been away for a little while, but unfortunately I've been needing to deal with a few personal issues. That being said, last time I promised you that I was going to be presenting 2 tales from a rather gifted individual based on his true life experiences. The Man in Red was such a wonderful tale. Just wait till you see what he has in store for us tonight. I present to you the terrifying tale, The Grey Wolf.
As I have once shared before, I am no stranger to odd, paranormal experiences. This time, I will share the 2 oddities that accompanied my wife and I, and later our son, when I was active duty Army. As before with the Man in Red, the personages I would witness would always present multiple times at the same location. Let me set the visual stage. We lived off post, but still in military housing, in an old upstate New York town. We were 10 or 11 miles away from post, which allowed a nice reprieve from constant military bearing. Every evening after duty, I would be able to leave the confining post and enjoy the warmth of home in our little 2-bedroom apartment. The apartment building featured 4 apartments in each structure, and at least 25 or 30 of these buildings consisted of our away-from-base sanctuary. Officers and enlisted coexisted alike in these older, worn-down but sound structures. When we saw each other on base, it was salutes and parade rest, but in our little community, it was friends and family. Our little place featured 2 modest bedrooms, sandwiching a full bathroom at the far end of the entrance. As you walked in the front door, the open living and dining room welcomed a relief of generally compact Army life. The front door opened against a wall, hiding a coat closet when opened. A few feet from that wall was an opening into a mud room, where our washer and dryer and winter gear was maintained. I put all of my military equipment in that room, reinforcing the visage of normalcy when that door was closed. Just beyond that was a kitchen, with decades-old Formica counters hovering over faded and stained with age linoleum. The edge of the kitchen and the edge of the living room were parallel, creating a hallway that led to the bathroom straight ahead. On the left was the larger room, and the right was the smaller. This hallway and the left room are the 2 spots where our consistent visitors would frequent. As I bring you back around to the living room, our television was centered immediately to the right of the door as you walked in. On that even farther wall, we laid our couch parallel with the adjacent wall. We loved open floor plans, and our furniture arrangement solidified our deduction to grand open floor space. Often, we would watch our favorite shows while cuddling on that couch. Where I would sit, I would always be able to see the reflection of the hallway and larger bedroom opening when the screen would fade between commercials. The first time I saw the woman was right between an episode of Forensic Files and the first advertisement from their sponsors, Dunkin' Donuts. The screen faded from the show to the familiar black void. And where I expected to see nothing but the reflection, I saw her. She was tall and gray like smoke and ash all over. Naked and aged, but not wrinkled. In her physique, I saw what once might have been a gorgeous young woman. But in her present state, potential decomposition sagged and morphed the features downward. The plethora of grays blurred together in a miasma of rugged clouds. Near tipping point robust with moisture. It was initially breathtaking, but then the reality of the situation set in. I saw her in the reflection and was startled at the sudden arrival of her. I spun my head around and there she was, just simply standing there. She wasn't facing straight in the hallway or towards any particular direction. She just swayed there, apparently unaware of my acknowledgement of her. My wife realized I was fixated on something other than the sweet pastries on the screen and found my gaze. She followed my eyes to where I was staring and then turned back to me and asked what I was looking at. I replied that I thought I saw something, but was mistaken. The woman was still there, and the white lie I spoke was harmless. After a few more seconds, I returned my eyes to the screen and acted as if all was fine. At this point in our relationship, I hadn't really shared my visitors with my wife. I never really felt confident in the experiences until he showed up. He, or it, or whatever it was. The man in red was such a common visitor that I hadn't feared it like I feared this next visitor. In our bedroom, we had a cabinet that held our computer inside, tucked away in the corner. One day, while I was at duty, my wife saw what we eventually dubbed the Spider-Man. She said she was working on the desktop as she normally did with her graduate work assignments, and she noticed a strange movement on the screen above her reflected left shoulder. She spun around and saw nothing. She said she could only see it on the screen. She described it as a dark, humanoid figure, crouched and upside down in the corner of the ceiling. She said she could determine that its head was aimed at her and would only shift its position, but never move its head, which was upside down from its hanging body. He became an apparent and scheduled appearance for her during the day. When she shared this thing with me, I opened up about all of my experiences. My wife claimed that Spider-Man was the first thing she had ever seen, and had only felt oddities in her past. As days progressed to months, we grew comfortable and accustomed to our strange visitors. They never did anything but their usual stances and occasional twitches. The woman would stare at whatever she was staring at, and the Spider-Man would hang in our bedroom. One Saturday, I was home alone playing on the Xbox when I saw her reflection. She rarely ever appeared during the day, so it was a little off-putting, but I kept on playing. Crackdown, if you were wondering. When load screens and death screens came, she stayed there, motionless like always. At one particular moment, the screen faded, and I saw that she had turned towards me and was reaching out to me. As I saw this, I spun around and saw the depth of her eyes. Black, a hollow, penetrating 1,000,000 miles deep. As I witnessed this firsthand, I saw that behind her in the bedroom was Spider-Man, crawling on the roof out the door towards her. I hadn't seen him yet, and was paralyzed by sudden fear. Nothing in combat prepared me for what I saw. He slinkly crawled over the ceiling threshold, slowly moving his arms and legs, similar to the way a praying mantis moves when it senses a predator. I was fixated on her, but she stood absolutely still and motionless, like an ashen marble statue, reaching towards me in exasperation. Her face was contorted into a twisted expression of pleading fury, punctuated by long-tasted fear, and mildly highlighted by resolution and repetition. I was witnessing something that happens over and over again, I assumed. I felt compelled to act, to move, to do something. I jumped up and rushed towards the apparitions, only to see her vanish and his gaze adjust from the spot where she was standing to me. I shuddered to a stop, nearly tripping myself, and locked eyes with this entity. He froze and calculated me for a brief, timeless seconds, before quickly retreating into our bedroom, stumbling on the ceiling threshold he had so smoothly navigated only moments earlier. Once fear released its paralyzing grip on me, I slowly and carefully entered our bedroom and found him in his usual corner, where my wife had always said he usually was. He wasn't staring at me anymore, not even seeing my entrance. I crossed the room to see if he would snap his attention to me, but never did. I caught my failing breath, looked around the room feeling foolish, and became instantly aware that he had left my field of view. My wife returned from her adventure, and I shared my experience with her. She sat in disbelief when I told her what transpired. A few weeks went by before we had realized that neither of us had witnessed the usual guests since my trial experience. We nervously laughed it off and went about life. Not far long after that, I was showering in the bathroom at the head of the hallway, relishing the tickling heat of the water trickling on my skin. As I washed and rinsed, I suddenly felt a cooling of the stall that usually signified when my wife had decided to enter the shower with me, allowing a rush of cooler air to swish into the stall from the removed curtain. I had lathered my face for shaving and wasn't too comfortable opening my eyes with the astringent Barbasol so close to my sockets. I turned around and reached out, trying to shock my secretly surprising wife, but felt nothing on my fingers. I plunged blindly further away from me when my hands and arms got incredibly cold, as if an air conditioner was blasting icy wind on my exposed flesh. The sensation startled me, and I opened my eyes in shock. The barbasol fumes stung, and my eyes watered in discomfort momentarily. The gray woman was inches from my face, inches from my body, my arms piercing her torso near her belly. Her eyes were closed and small, shiny pearls of tears whispered down her cheeks. We held this touchless embrace a few seconds before I recoiled, half in puckered fear, half in mild disgust. I had touched bodies before. I was a combat medic. But seeing my hands partially vanishing into her abdominal sides disturbed me at a primordial level. She remained frozen. The only movement was the shiny dewdrops casually strolling the hills and valleys of her cracked, wrinkled face. Then, all at once, she vanished and had never reappeared anywhere in the house ever again. Spider-Man never left his vantage point in the corner of our bedroom, and we even said a shy farewell when we moved. I wish I had a resolution for you, an ending. Truth is, we never knew anything about that gray woman, Spider-Man, or any of it. Over this past Christmas, we had spent time with a family who lived in our building when we did. We were friends and hadn't seen much of each other over the years, only sharing lives via social media. Somehow, we got on the topic of strange things that happened in our apartments, and we shared the woman in gray. As we started to mention her, our friends interrupted and asked if we had seen what they called the hanging man they had in their apartment. I puckered again.
Welcome back! I do hope that you enjoyed tonight's story. You know, it's not every day that we come across a mortal with such talented gifts. Can you imagine being able to see all these entities all over the place? Very lucky, or cursed individual, depending how you look at it. Well, speaking of curses, I think I have a little bit of research that I'm getting a little bit worried about a good friend of mine, so I guess that's all for the night. Ta-ta for now.